Hello, my name is Emphrey, and this is an AppGameKit game development tutorial. Now in this tutorial, I'm going to introduce the player into the game. And our player is going to have a walking animation. Right now, we're inside of paint.net, and before this tutorial, I've already created the walking animation. So this is our player's standing position, and this is when our player takes a step. So when we launch our game, and when our player starts walking, it's going to look like this. All I'm doing is just switching between the first animation and the second animation. Okay, so now I'm just going to save this. I'm going to go to File, Save As, and the folder that we were working with, Media. And I'm going to say the first background and the second background. Okay, so now we're going to go to our code. Okay, so now we're inside of our code. Okay, so the first thing I did was I created an ID for my player sprite, and then I gave it an ID of 2. And remember, we gave the background an ID of 1. So I gave my player an ID of 2. And then I took this ID and loaded the 2 sprites onto them. These 2 sprites that we just worked with. I took the first animation and put that onto the 2. And I took the second animation and put it onto the 2 as well. So this 2 stores both animations. Isn't that amazing how just one number can store these 2 animations here? You know, you can have a whole list of animations and have this little 2 store all of them. This 2 is actually a variable here. That's what variables do in computer programming. This next part has to do with Emphrey's coordinates. Remember, X has to do with our player's horizontal position, and Y has to do with our player's vertical position. So this X says Emphrey's going to start out on 200 on the horizontal front, and this Y means Emphrey's going to start at 300 on the vertical front. Now, when we move our player and when our player walks, we're going to be dealing with the arrow keys. When we press the right arrow key, the player is going to move to the right, and when we press the left arrow key, our player is going to move to the left. And this Emphrey right equals 0 and Emphrey left equals 0. This part just lets the computer know which way our player is facing, so that maybe the bullets, projectiles, or the attack or punch or something is going to go in the correct direction. And our player is going to move at a speed of 3 pixels per second. Okay, so next part has to do with our player's starting animation. I think that AppGameKit wants some kind of animation going on at all times in order for our animations to work properly. Another one of my favorite basic style programming languages called Blitz Basic 3D was similar. I made a tutorial on that too. So that's why we got this idle animation here. So this first number has to do with our player's ID. Remember, we gave our player an ID of 2, C2. So we attached all our animations and stuff and put them here with just one variable called 2. All our animations are stored on this 2 here, amazingly. So then our animation is going to go at a speed of 10 when our player moves or whenever we press the arrow keys. And looping has to do with whether our animations repeat or not. 0 means our animation is not going to repeat. 1 means our animations are going to repeat. And we do want our animation to repeat. So that's why I put this 1 here. So our player will be looping via this 1 here. And since we're dealing with the idle animation, we're only dealing with the starting frame, which would be this frame right here. So that's our starting frame. So once we launch our game, the idle frame is going to be our starting frame, and it's going to stay on the starting frame. And via this last 1 right here, our player's ending frame until we press the arrow keys. So next we find our starting position for our player. Remember, we gave our player an ID of 2. See ID of 2 here. So here we're just finalizing. So we're just adding our animation sprites here, and we're also adding these X and Y coordinates right here. So 39 has to do with our player moving to the right, and 37 has to do with our player moving to the left. So whenever the right arrow key is pressed, first of all, our player is going to be facing the normal direction, as in the way it looks right here. It's going to look like this. And he's going to be moving at a speed of 3 pixels per second, like we put right here. You know, instead of putting speed, we could have just put 3 here and it would have done the same thing. But it's better to work with variables when you deal with computer programming, in case you need to change this stuff. And then, if the right arrow key is pressed, that means our player is facing the right direction. So 1 means true, 0 means false. So when our right arrow key is pressed, that would just set Henry facing to the right to true, and left direction to false. But on the opposite, when the left arrow key is pressed, remember 37 has to do with left, our player is going to face the leftward direction. Your animations are going to look like this because of this part right here. And that's what flip means. And again, it's going to go in the left direction at 3 pixels per second, like we put right here. And that means our rightward direction is going to be set to 0, which means false. And our leftward direction is going to be set to 1, which means true. And then when our game starts, remember the idle animation is going to be playing. Otherwise, else means otherwise. If the right arrow key or left arrow key is pressed, then it'll play these walking animations. Again, our player's going to go at a speed of 10 with the second number. It's going to loop with this 1 here. And it's going to go from first frame to second frame. And so it's going to go just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. See? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Or if the player is facing the leftward direction, it's going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then finally, you put a sync so we can see our animations on screen. And in the do loop. See? Do loop. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch our game and see what happens. Okay, so here's our player. And it's facing in the rightward direction, like we wanted. And it's on our first frame. See, remember? This first one has to do with the rightward direction. Okay, so let's see what happens when we press the right arrow key. So when we press the right arrow key, it walks to the right. But when we press the left arrow key, it moves to the left, and the player flips. Okay, so our walking animation is successful. Feel free to take what you learned in this tutorial and expand on it. Maybe feel free to create some more animations and make them move around like our player's doing. Until next time, thanks. Bye.